Is Tom Fields, and I'm the law enforcement liaison at the Vermont Governor's Highway Safety Office in Waterbury. Like I said, I want to thank you for being here. We are here today with our partners to raise awareness for the need to slow down and buckle up in our cars and our trucks during this upcoming holiday season especially. Some of the people here today are the same people who have seen firsthand the results of the bad decisions that are sometimes made on our highways. Some of these people are also members of another group known as the Vermont Highway Safety Alliance. The Highway Safety Alliance looks at the engineering and the design of our highways, the education of our motorists, including drivers young and old. We look at the law enforcement procedures. We also look at how emergency services fits into this whole process, part of this Vermont Highway Safety Alliance. We all know that our cars and trucks are built better today than they have ever been built in the past, safer than ever before, and we have made vast changes to our highway designs for safety reasons. We have also improved officer training and reporting procedures to better capture information found at crash scenes. And the care for our injured is a science in and of itself, as you all know right here. Many improvements have been made there also, but you still have to buckle up to be safe inside your car or truck. And that's a decision only the driver and the occupants in that vehicle can make. As we move forward today in today's conference, I would like to introduce the chief of the Vermont Governor's Highway Safety Program, Mr. Ted Menal. Mr. Menal retired as a lieutenant from the New York City Police Department, came to Vermont and accepted a position as chief of the Virgins Police Department. After a while, he went to work for the Governor's Highway Safety Office as the law enforcement liaison at the time. And then for the past several years was working with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration out of Boston area. Then came back to be our chief and run the Governor's Highway Safety Office. So without further ado, Mr. Menal. Any comments?
Thank you, Doug. As you all know, the holiday season, great time for folks to get together and celebrate being a family. I don't think there's the worst thing that can happen to a family is to lose a loved one suddenly and unexpectedly, especially in the holiday season. So far this year, on roadways in Vermont, 70 people have lost their lives. Of those 70 people, right around 40 of them were not properly restrained. You wonder how many of those 40 people, if they were restrained, if they were belted, would be around this holiday season and celebrate it with their families. To the 85% of Vermonters who buckle up every day, wear the seatbelts, thank you so much. And the 15% of Vermonters that just don't get it, I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm going to ask you to contact the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Just tell me or tell one of the staff why you think it's a good idea not to wear your belt. A simple thing you can do, like Tom said, when you get in your car, the most effective piece of safety equipment that you have is that seatbelt. It only takes a second. Just put it on. As a member of a family, you owe it to your family to go home after each and every trip. If you don't come home safely, your family cannot have that whole family holiday experience. Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it. I'm just going to turn it back over to Tom.
Thank you. Thanks, Ted. Well, next up, I'd like to introduce you to a person that really is a legend in the Rutland County area. Lieutenant Kevin Gino of the Rutland City Police Department. Lieutenant Gino has been a police officer in Rutland for decades. And actually spent quite a bit of time in the Detective Bureau, for those who remember. But Lieutenant Gino couldn't resist the pull of wearing the uniform and came back to Uniform Division. And one of your responsibilities now, I believe, is that you're in charge of the Uniform Division at the Rutland City Police Department. Lieutenant Gino has been an advocate of the highway safety programs for years with the Rutland City Police Department and has served many of the communities, the area communities, in helping out with our click their ticket programs and our DUI enforcement programs. Matter of fact, he has won many statewide awards for his participation in our campaigns. I don't need to really introduce this gentleman. Everybody here probably knows Lieutenant Gino. Further ado, sir.
Thank you. As part of the nationwide Click It or Ticket campaign with the Vermont Governor's Highway Safety Program, the Rutland City Police Department is reminding people to buckle up and make sure young children are properly restrained. We ask that you don't drive impaired or speed. We also need to be aware of distracted driving and cell phone use while driving. Together, we can make a difference towards safe highways and zero deaths. I'd like to introduce Dr. Scott Graham from the emergency room, who is an emergency room physician.
Thank you all for coming. I want to say that, between all the technology in cars these days, they're much safer than they were 20 years ago, with crash zones, airbags. But the one thing that actually saves lives is seatbelts. We see this every day in the emergency room. People will be in horrible accidents, but it's amazing what you can walk away from these days if you're properly restrained. An airbag is only helpful if you're wearing your seatbelt. It's not going to save your life otherwise. So the car is only as good as or as safe as you make it by buckling up yourself. So we appreciate those who do buckle up and hope that everybody buckles up when they get behind the wheel.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce Tom Rounds, who is an ER director, emergency room director.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to let you know that Rutland Regional is really in a partnership. When we look what we can do in the community, both local law enforcement and state, and our government, as you saw the representatives we had earlier, it's really about education and what we can do as nurses. Emergency Nurses Association is committed with our physicians to try to reach out and prevent injuries. We train, we prepare, and we're ready to take care of traumas and patients that might arrive here, but really what we want is prevention. People that are unrestrained often get ejected from cars. They don't understand the value of seat belts, and some people like to buck one behind them, kind of hide that from law enforcement. But really they're cheating themselves and their family. So I'd ask that people get the message that education's important, prevention is the best thing we can do, and the commitment to the community is really what Rutland's here to help with. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Ed Borzalek, who is Chief Financial Officer for Rutland Regional Medical Center, who has a personal story.
Good morning. I did want to share a story that basically affected my family, unfortunately, to show that it doesn't always happen to other people, to the comments that have been made earlier with respect to the fact that it can be devastating to a family. So on April 15th, 2006, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and two nieces were driving from the coast of North Carolina to the Raleigh-Durham Airport to fly to Rutland, Vermont for Easter. It was along a highway. My older niece, who was 24 at the time, was driving, and my younger niece, who was 14, was in the passenger seat. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law were in the back seat. And they felt that since they were in the back seat, they didn't need to put their seatbelts on. My two nieces in the front were both belted. About a third of the way into the trip, they had a blowout, front left tire. My niece lost control of the vehicle, vehicle flipped over several times, and both my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were ejected from the vehicle. My sister-in-law was killed on impact. My brother-in-law spent the next 8 months in intensive care, and to this day, although he's made a remarkable recovery, he's not able to do many of the things that he loved, including playing golf, since he was a golf pro. So from that perspective, it had a devastating effect, especially on the children, my wife, her only sibling, and it really obviously made a very somber Easter at that particular month. So to the points that have been made, it's not just the people who are not belting up, but to the impact on the family who's left behind to pick up the pieces and move on. It is more than any of you wish to ever encounter. So I add to that all of the importance of clicking that seatbelt. I won't leave my car move until everybody has. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your story. Could I have Bill Mapes from Regional Ambulance Service come up for a word, please?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for including us with this. I simply want to talk to the 15% of Vermonters who don't buckle up. I'm tired of your excuses. The excuse that I have an airbag, I don't need to buckle up. It's a supplemental restraint system. There's two pieces. Your seatbelt, shoulder harness, your airbag. They work together. It's too uncomfortable for me to wear my seatbelt. I can guarantee you the back of my ambulance after you are critically injured is much more uncomfortable. I can guarantee you the emergency department is much more uncomfortable. I can guarantee you the ICU and the rehab afterwards is much more uncomfortable. I'm tired of your excuses. Buckle up. I've got 30 years in emergency medical services. I've never once in 30 years unbuckled a dead person. If you stay in the car, you stay alive. Simple. Thanks.
Thank you. Could I have Dustin Stone and Roger Brown from Juniors at Mill River who would like to say a few words?
Okay. Well, we did a safety belt survey at Stafford one morning, and we basically took the amount of cars that went through and figured out who was buckled and who wasn't, passenger and driver. And then we took the statistics and gave it to the Rutland City Police for the Click Your Ticket campaign.
We're also involved in like a national conference about teen driver safety. We have been for years. You guys have already heard this, all the statistics. It's a very sad thing to see that 15% of people, get hurt. Every year, 50,000 people a year are killed. It's just a sad thing. Oh yeah.
Thank you. I introduce Lieutenant John Flanagan from Vermont State Police, Commander of the State Police Traffic Operations Unit.
Can I ask all the law enforcement and all first responders in uniform to come up front? Because it's all the great work that you do that I think it needs to be front and center here. I first want to start to say thank you for the Governor's Highway Safety Program and specifically Chief Ted Manall and your staff for putting this together. You guys do some great work down there, and certainly the credit to all of our partners that work tirelessly to make our highways safer every day. We talked about seatbelt compliance rate, 85%. That is the best case scenario that we see throughout the year. We think there are lulls in that throughout the year. One thing to point out is that seatbelt compliance rate has been at that for about 10 years now. We just need to do a better job. We've got to get to the 15% or more. It's a pattern that's all too familiar this year, as Chief Manal pointed out. 40 people unbuckled and were killed on our highways. It's unacceptable. We hear this year after year. And there is no excuse to wear your seatbelt. Your loved ones are depending on you to stay alive. We especially encourage parents to model good behavior for young drivers. We do know that young drivers and teens out there are going to model their parents' driving behaviors. And we need to start that safe driving culture with our young drivers. And our parents need to be leaders out there. Just a touch on speed. Speeding is a major contributing circumstances and factors in a significant number of our crashes statewide throughout the year. Speed kills, and we see this in combination with a number of things, impaired driving, as well as seatbelts, at a significant rate. Just as an example, 35 mile per hour speed limit with a 1.5 second reaction time takes you on average about 116 feet to stop. You go to 50 miles per hour, that increases to 230 feet. So you're talking about twice as much stopping distance to be able to safely stop on a dry road with all 4 brakes working properly. Especially important now when we're getting into the winter driving season. People need to slow down if there's inclement weather. The speed limits are designed for dry, flat, daylight road surfaces. Anything beyond that, we need to reduce our speed. We have to strive to keep our vehicles on the road. We're striving to change future behavior, reduce injuries, and save lives, and be not just a safe state, but be the safest state. Please wear your seatbelt every trip, every time, day and night, and encourage all to do the same. Remember, there's no excuses. I also wanted to just touch base on our Operation Summer Heat program that we did this year. And again, thanks to all of our law enforcement partners out there, as well as other agencies that had our support. This was really designed, again, for speed, but also aggressive driving. We wanted to make some impact on the rising number of fatalities that we were seeing throughout the state. We're doing pretty good until recently. We had about almost a 3 to 4 week period where we saw no fatalities on the highways. Unfortunately, we had 2 deaths in the past week, and we're trying to make a strong push through the end of the year to turn that tide around. And there's a very good likelihood that we're going to do the Operation Summer Heat next year for the summer driving season, which is a time of year that we've traditionally seen a higher number of traffic fatalities on the highways. So thank you. Any questions, and I will turn this over to Tom Fields.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being here today, and hopefully our message will get out. And not only will we have a safe Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday season, but try to establish good driving habit behaviors. And that's what we're striving for, that goal, to reduce the numbers, and we can do something with that 15%. But as I said in my presentation, we can work on the highways. We've done an awful lot with automobiles. We've tried to educate educators. We've tried a lot of different things, but it's all up to the person who gets behind the wheel of the car or sits in the car, make sure they have their seatbelt installed properly, and a car seat for the children, that they are installed properly. So you've got a great cadre of law enforcement officers here with all kinds of knowledge about laws and so forth. We're going to open this up to any questions that you may have, anything we can help to clarify while we're here. But I do, and others here, appreciate you taking the time to be here today. giving us the opportunity to pass this message along. Thank you very much.
I have a question. Sometimes the shock value works. I don't know if one of the paramedics or our doc would be willing to just kind of paint a picture of a scene that maybe you've come across that, I know you said that if you're not wearing your seatbelt, you're ejected from the vehicle. You don't have to get too graphic, but I think describing maybe a scene that you've witnessed that was maybe stuck with you.
Yeah. Jenny, I think it's very simply put that the vehicle is designed to protect you in a crash. The vehicle is designed to absorb that, what we call kinetic energy, and keep you safe. When you leave the vehicle because you're unbelted, your body is now subjected to the same forces that are at work on your vehicle. The same forces that are tearing your vehicle apart but keeping you safe are now working on your body. Flesh and bone doesn't stand up the way sheet metal does. And it's the way NASCAR guys survive crashes at 180 miles an hour. The vehicle's designed to keep them safe. It's the same thing with our vehicle. When you leave the vehicle because you've made a bad decision to be unbelted, it's going to be all bad for you. There's no other way to cut it.
Thank you.
What can we expect to see on the roads this holiday season? More traffic officers on the road? What can people expect to see?
The Highway Safety Office each year provides law enforcement agencies in the state the opportunity to apply for grants that will allow them to put more officers on the road at different times of the year, but especially during holiday seasons, for both occupant protection and impaired driving programs. So many of the agencies in the state are going to participate in the upcoming Click It or Ticket campaign. That 4-day period from Wednesday through Sunday is when many of the agencies in the state will be participating in this campaign. We have a total of probably 40 municipal agencies right now signed up. I believe we have 13 out of the 14 sheriff's departments signed up to participate, and the state police facilities throughout the state are signed up to, again, participate. Many of the constables, Department of Liquor Control, Department of Motor Vehicles, these are all part of our partnerships that are out there, and these are the people that will be out doing extra patrols during this time period.
And last question for me, but what are we finding is working? I mean, I know that maybe just more visibility, like you just mentioned, or like those signs that say like Arrive Alive, or there's been a couple different ones. Are people responding well to that?
A lot of the things that are being done are helpful. It's very difficult to measure. Whether it's a rumble strip, a centerline rumble strip, or an edgeline rumble strip, an officer presence in an area, the signs that you mentioned, the movable message boards, all those kinds of things help, and many of them are just something you can't measure. It could be much worse. Our fatal crash rate could be much worse if we didn't have those things, but we just don't know. So, sorry, I can't really directly answer that question.
Perfect.
And we have a couple young drivers in the room, and I know especially for people new to driving, you want to get this message to them. Why is it important to teach it now?
Just to develop that habit. As the term muscle memory, to get in the car and fasten the seatbelt. I'm sure most of the people here, I know we feel like we're preaching to the choir, but most of the people here just automatically put their seatbelts on without thinking about it. And that's what we want to instill. Sometimes we think we may have lost a generation somewhere along the line, didn't quite get the message, and that's why we're having some problems now. We don't want to lose this generation of young people. We want them all healthy and happy.
I like one more question.
No, you don't have any more.
So I know there were 70 deaths so far this year. Is that up from past years?
Yes, we had a total of 55 in all of 2011, and at this time last year, 45? I think it was 45 at this time last year, and we're at 70. So we're quite a bit above what we had last year.
You mentioned the 15% of the people that don't buckle. What demographic makes up that 15%? And is there something that you're doing to specifically target that group?
Well, it seems to be young males, like 18 to 34 years old, driving pickup trucks. that's not a good word for young law enforcement use, target, but that's probably that's the audience, our audience. Those are the people that could make a huge difference. Because they are also the people that their young sons or daughters in that pickup truck are watching what mom and dad do, or dad does. And if they're not buckling up, then they don't instill that safety behavior in their children. So that's our audience. That's our challenge, if you will, is to try to turn that around. And it's been difficult to do. It's most of our 15%. Any other questions?
What's the current fine or penalty for not being restrained if you get pulled over or if you're involved in an accident?
It is, well, it's a secondary violation. So on top of a primary violation that you're issued, it's $25 fine for a first offense, 50 for a second offense, and I believe 100 if it's a third offense.
I would point out to you that the penalty on my side is probably a lot higher.
How low is the best state in the country? Do you know what the rate is that we could aspire to?
State of Washington, and I believe that they're in the mid to high 90s as far as compliance rate. Is that correct, Chief Minow?
98.
98.
I think that's state of Washington. That's a primary seatbelt law state?
Yes.
Do you have any statistics about statewide regions like that, city to city, what you have to concentrate on, which cities you have to concentrate on?
Within the state of Vermont, are you saying?
Yes.
Yes, we do. We do seatbelt surveys at least once a year. We hire a contractor to go out in various areas of the state and develop a seatbelt survey or a restraint survey for us, compliance survey. And we use the data received from those surveys to send officers into different areas of the state where the compliance rate is low and try to raise that compliance rate.
But you don't have any specifics for us right now, city to city, which would be higher than another, for instance?
I don't have them with me, no. But it's information that is available. It's more of a regional area or a geographic area, not like a specific. We can't define the difference between Burlington and South Burlington, for instance. It'd be very difficult to do. There's a lot of traffic that moves back and forth. We can look at Chittenden County and say, this is what the rate is generally for Chittenden County. We can look at the Northeast Kingdom, the southwestern and southeastern corner of the state, maybe the greater Capital District area, very Montpelier area. But that gives us a place to start. And sometimes smaller areas within that, we can get an idea about a particular highway. But we use that information from seatbelt surveys and crash data from officers' reports to really concentrate our efforts in specific areas. We think we're going to do the most good in specific areas. Thank you all very much. Once again, have a happy Thanksgiving holiday. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.